Good evening and welcome to the Community Lens, April 2026 edition. Welcome. We are full into spring. Those April showers are bringing out those May flowers to come, and the leaves are budding on the trees. We have a great show for you tonight. But before we begin tonight's discussion, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Kara Papa, your host.
I'm Andrew Rice, a candidate for Connecticut 3rd Congressional District in the Congress.
I'm Ainsley Brooks, Miss New Haven County's teen.
Thank you both for joining me tonight. For my spiel tonight, I just want to share that first, the food pantry has increasing needs. And if you are able, please consider donating. I know that it's hard as gas prices have been jumping, as in all of the other needs that we have been jumping in price. But when that's happening, our neighbors are also struggling, and so food scarcity is increasing. And one of my guests tonight is going to tell you about a fundraising program that they are going to run to help the food pantry. I am also still selling merch that is supporting the food pantry, so you can get Community Lens or North Branford merch, and you can choose that on the store. And I am going to go to my guests' paint night in order for you to see some of the merch live in person and buy it. We also want to highlight another community-driven project that's going on. I saw on the North Branford, I believe it was the Northford Facebook community page. Somebody is creating a map of local hobby farms. So if you go back to the Northford, Straight Outta Northford group and search for that, you can add your farm stand there. This is going to be your local neighbors. I sell eggs, so I'm going to put mine up there. If you sell vegetables or hand them out on the side of the road, if you have a little stand at the end of your driveway. So it's pretty neat. It will be a map, and then you'll be able to know if your neighbors have something to share. And for those of us interested in learning more about our nation's history, it is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I have a list of founding fathers' autobiographies and biographies. Autobiographies are important because they are primary sources, so you're hearing it right from the person's mouth, so to speak. And then lots of biographies. Rob Chernow is my favorite biographer. However, David McCullough is a very good biographer as well. And there's a few others. There's one book that is not on there that's called Thomas Jefferson and the Barbary Pirates. It's a really good read if you want to check that out. And it's actually our first war that we ever got into as a nation. I will also be sharing statements from Mr. Candelora, our state representative, and our Senator, Christine Cohen, regarding the legislation and voting that has been going on. Budget referendum, that's big talk in town. Everybody's talking about the budget. So don't talk about it. Go out and do something about it and vote on May 12th. It's an important opportunity to have our voices heard. And finally, we invite you to take part in something special. The Parks and Rec Department is having a meeting on Wednesday evening this week to talk about the 250th anniversary, and all of the different organizations and places of business in town. If you are planning to celebrate the 250th anniversary on July 4th or near or roundabout, they would like everybody to come out and give their lens, talk about what's going on so they could plan around you. They want to put a nice calendar together so everybody knows about all of the events that are going on celebrating the United States of America. We have two churches in town. We have the church in Northford that is over 300 years old, and we have the church here in North Branford that is over 300 years old. So we started way before the Declaration of Independence. So I think it's important that we all get involved. So everybody's invited, residents, community groups, schools, businesses, and organizations. So now let's get to my guests.
Ladies first.
My name is Ainsley Brooks, and I'm going to be talking about my platform, Played It Forward. My platform I use to raise awareness for those suffering with food insecurity or experiencing homelessness. I've made several donations to the food pantry of North Brantford, and May 23rd, I'm having a Paint a Plate event, which is open invite, the more the merrier, and I would love to see you there. The entry is 3 non-perishable food items, and you can text the number 203-314-1691 to RSVP if you're coming. It is open to all ages, and I would love to have you there. My platform, I was inspired to create this because I've grown up around feeding the homeless through church and youth group events like going to the Columbus House. And through having those one-on-one talks with homeless people, I've realized that this can really happen to anyone. And there's kind of a stereotype around homeless people that they got here through their actions or through laziness. And for a lot of people, that is not the case. And from talking to these people, that brought to my attention the issue. And so I decided that I wanted to make a difference and start helping out these people and donating and putting meals on the table for them.
Thank you so much. Andrew?
That was awesome. Thank you for sharing that. My name's Andrew Rice. I'm running for Congress in Connecticut's 3rd Congressional District, challenging Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, the 35-year incumbent. I was a 3-year-old boy when she first took office, and I have felt that the establishment Democratic Party has not been doing enough to fight for the working class and to fight for people that are struggling these days. Going around the district, affordability has been a huge issue for people, and so our platform focuses on 3 major areas to address the affordability crisis. One is passing Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan, would save taxpayers $450 billion over a 10-year period while guaranteeing access to health care for every American individual. We have an emphasis on expanding education funding, both the Pell Grants, we want to double Pell Grant funding, as well as expand eligibility requirements so that more students can get access to this funding. We also want to fully fund the IDEA program, which is supposed to guarantee that the federal government will subsidize 40% of special education expenditures by our cities. And then lastly, we want to revisit FDR's economic Bill of Rights that he proposed back in 1944, especially with a focus on affordable housing, because as Ainsley pointed out, there is a housing crisis and a homelessness crisis here in the 3rd District. And so to pay for all of this, we want to ensure that we are closing loopholes that billionaires exploit to not pay their fair share in taxes. And we also want to reduce corporate war spending. Instead of using that money to destroy societies across the seas, we want to return that money here at home to make sure that our people are getting the resources that they need and deserve living in the richest country in the world. So again, my name is Andrew Rice, and I'm running for Congress.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, before we get into our conversation, I am going to read the statements from up at the State House. So I'm going to start with the statement from Senator Cohen's staff. I'm thrilled to tell North Brantford residents about some of the good news coming out of Hartford this session. On the budget, we are committed to a substantial increase in education cost-sharing funding for local schools, expanded child care support, and real tax relief for working families, including new credits for renters and family caregivers, and sales tax exemptions on clothing, school supplies, and energy-efficient appliances. I'm hopeful that we can pass a budget inclusive of these things as we wrap up budget negotiations in near final passage. This session, we also took action to protect residents from data brokers and surveillance technology, preserve vaccine access, and protect homeschool children, and ensure that our youth are protected and workers are treated fairly as artificial intelligence reshapes our economy. As Senate Chair of the Transportation Committee, I am eager to see Senate Bill 9 come to a vote. This bill creates a tax credit for employers who offer commuter benefits and extends our micro-transit pilot to better serve communities without traditional transit options. And because North Branford is rich in its agricultural tradition, while farmers anxiously await the federal funding that has been secured with enormous thanks to North Branford's own Will Delacamera, I am hopeful that Connecticut House will soon pass legislation expanding the farm investment tax credit so Connecticut's agricultural families, including many in Northford and North Branford, can invest in the modern equipment and technology that will keep their land productive for generations to come. I am grateful to serve this community. I truly believe this legislature is doing meaningful work to improve the lives of many of families in North Branford and across the 12th district, and I am proud to be part of it. Thank you so much, Senator Cohen. From Mr. Candelora's office, Mr. Sunday shared with me some of the highlights. A quote, "Real tax relief is achievable, but only if you're willing to think beyond the status quo. Our pathway to affordability balances the budget, cuts taxes for middle-class families, and provides more money to municipalities to offset the property tax burden caused by rising education budgets. Connecticut residents deserve a government that makes life easier, not harder." Among the House Republican sustainable tax relief proposals, increase the state's maximum property tax credit to $650 and expand income eligibility, extending relief to 800,000 filers. Curb healthcare costs by reducing a state levy on insurance companies, that would be $20 million, that has been passed on to consumers in their monthly premiums. Eliminate income tax on all Social Security benefits. Eliminate the sales tax on children's clothing. Enact a no tax on tips exemption. Reduce the sales tax on vehicles priced between $50,000 and $75,000 from 7.75% to 6.35% because the cost of vehicles has risen sharply in recent years, and what once seemed like a luxury price point now covers everyday family minivans and work trucks. Eliminate fees on certain occupational licenses. Remove the passport to parks fee from motor vehicle registrations. Ease local tax burden by providing $2.5 million to help municipalities cover early voting costs. A centerpiece of the Republican budget proposal is School Taxpayer Affordability and Relief Plan, STRAP. Our budget includes $365 million to be sent to towns and cities to help offset the rising costs of education budgets. It's new money, and every Connecticut community would receive funding under our plan. It would be distributed according to the same percentage they receive of the $2.3 billion education cost sharing money from the state. Under our plan, North Branford, for example, would receive $1,089,529. Among the ways we pay for our proposals, recover $340 million by challenging New York's convenience of employer rule, which forces roughly 80,000 Connecticut residents who work remotely for New York employers and pay income taxes to New York at rates higher than 10.9% top rate than they would pay here at home, 6.99% top rate. The plan includes $1 million to help these workers file legal challenges against New York's policy. Save $153 million by budgeting state employee positions based on realistic hiring trends rather than funding all vacancies at once. Save $12 million by reducing legislative earmarks. Save $3.5 million by eliminating inmate text messaging. Thank you very much, Mr. Candelora and Mr. Sunday, for sharing that with us. It was very informative. I do have one question, which comes which is a question that I've been asking for a couple weeks, is we keep talking about educational funding. We do need to fix the ECS because it has not been changed since 2013. And we do need to modernize. But is there anything in providing funding for education that is also asking for accountability for spending? That's what I want to ask for the good of the public. So now I'd like to talk to my guests. Tell us a little bit more about May 23rd. Do you have a goal for what you want to raise?
I just want to raise as much donations as I can. And this event, I forgot to mention earlier, will be held at St. Andrews in the center of Northford. And it is from, I believe, 3 p.m. to, I don't really have an end time, but whenever.
Okay, so 3 p.m. until the last plate is painted.
Yes.
Do you have any need for donations for plates or people to bring snacks and, for the entertainment piece?
No, I have that all covered. Just please be generous with your donations for the food pantry.
Awesome. Are you going to, while you're on your campaign, I know you said the pageant is when?
It is June 26th and June 27th.
Leading up to the pageant, or are you planning any other smaller events? Or
in the future, yes, I hope to have more events like food drives and also myself volunteering at places like the Columbus House or having a community supper at my church.
Okay. There is a project going on in town, somebody else who's your age, it's called the Open Door Project. Would that be okay if I sent her your information?
Yeah.
Because she's doing something a little bit different, but it's parallel, so I think you guys might be able to support each other.
Yeah.
So that would be really nice. Are you open to that?
Yes.
Awesome. I have some questions.
Let's hear 'em.
Why do you want to run against Miss DeLauro? It's courageous.
So thank you. I appreciate that. Last year on July 25th, Christmas in July, because I'm a big Christmas fan, I was at an event in New Haven called Make Noise for Palestine. So the Palestinian people have been, there's currently a genocide going on in Palestine. And at the time, the UN released a report saying that the 2 million Gazans were facing a stage 5 famine. A couple days prior, the Congress voted to give more military aid to Israel to use against the Palestinians. And so when I was making Noise for Palestine, out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone with bright purple hair. And I was like, is that Rosa DeLauro? And sure enough, it was. And I decided to give her a piece of my mind. And I basically accosted her for 5 or 6 minutes, asking why can she not call this a genocide? Why did she vote in favor of sending more bombs to bomb these innocent people? And then at one point I asked her, how do you sleep with yourself at night, denying a genocide? And she immediately responds with, very well, thank you. I got this all on video and put it on social media. That got to the attention of a Hamden DTC, a Democratic Town Committee member, who reached out to me and was impressed that I was willing to approach a politician so publicly. And he asked me if I was interested in mounting a challenge against her. And at the time, I only really knew that I disagreed with her on Palestine. But after seeing her failed leadership on that policy, I started wondering, were there other areas that she wasn't meeting the moment? And so when I started looking at her record and I saw that she does not support Medicare for all, that she has not been using her appropriator power to ensure that our districts are getting the full funding for special education, realizing that she voted in favor of a Charlie Kirk resolution, calling him a courageous patriot. And as a gay man, that to me is very disappointing because Charlie Kirk had very distasteful things to say about people like me and my place in this world. And so after taking a more holistic view of her current record, I decided that there is an opportunity to represent people in more than just Palestine, because I do recognize that for people that are struggling to afford rent and to afford groceries and to afford student loan debt, they might not have the bandwidth to fully appreciate a situation that is happening 3,500 miles away. And then I realized that if we stop spending all this money to perpetuate these wars and to perpetuate a genocide, that is more money that we could have here at home to address people's needs. And so that is when I decided that, yes, there was an opportunity to be able to represent people in multiple ways and challenge the incumbent who I feel has not been meeting our district's needs in this current moment.
The way I see it, it's a balance. Like, I'm so glad that you're both here tonight because I loved hearing both of your lenses. But so I do have some questions. So in the party that you're running under, the Democratic Party, there seems to be, this polarization within the party. You have the Senator Fetterman, and you have Governor Newsom on one side, and then you have, Bernie Sanders, who you mentioned before, and you have AOC over here on the other side, and you have the new Mayor Mamdani. Where do you feel that you fall in that spectrum?
I am definitely much more affiliated with the Mamdani, Bernie Sanders, AOC type. I'm not a big fan of Fetterman. I'm not a big fan of Gavin Newsom. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest split in the Democratic Party right now are between people who take corporate donations and work for corporations versus those who do not accept corporate donations and are actually fighting for people who are struggling. And so I side with the people who do not take corporate donations and want to focus on working class issues, on kitchen table issues, and not necessarily appeasing what corporations want and need. We really need to, I feel like the Democratic Party should be the party for workers. And since FDR, we've just really been drifting away from that. And so I want to push us back more towards those FDR-style Democrats that believed in things like the New Deal and believed in things like an economic Bill of Rights.
Do you consider yourself a democratic socialist?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not registered with the Democratic Socialists of America, but I would consider my philosophy aligned with democratic socialism.
Okay. So what about, I'm a big Bill Maher fan, so I watch him almost weekly. Not sometimes I'm too depressed and I can't take anymore. But
Fair.
He brought up a good point on because I would consider myself, if somebody forced me to label myself, I'm a libertarian first. So I align, kind of there in the middle. And he brought up a good point. He said, Mr. Sanders keeps saying that we need to tax the super rich. But he's pointing out that he's rich and he pays 60% of his salary in taxes. So where is that? Like another statistic that I read last week. There's like 800,000 homes that are $20 million or more. That's so different from when I was growing up. I was born in 77. Even during the 80s, I don't think that we got to that high percentage. So when you're running, a lot of those people may align with you, but are they going to want to pay their fair share? That's where I run to. Do you know what I mean? Like, socially, they agree, but financially, do they want to pay in all of that money?
So I would imagine, I don't know how much Bill Maher pays personally in taxes, but I believe that people like Bill Maher probably already do pay their fair share. We're talking about people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and George Soros, who, their effective tax rates can be anywhere from 1% to 10% versus, myself, I usually pay 22 to 23% of my income to taxes. And so when you have middle class people and working class people paying a higher percentage of their income to taxation versus people like Elon Musk or people like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, it's time that we close those loopholes so that they themselves are paying. Because there's ultra wealthy, and then there's billionaire oligarch wealthy who control, media, who have the ear of the president. So in campaigning, a lot of what I've realized is having the same definition for certain word choice. So if you say rich, my sister thinks that someone making $250,000 a year is rich. I would love to make $250,000 a year, but I wouldn't necessarily consider that person rich. But you might consider that person rich. I consider rich, ultra billionaire, you make $1 billion a year. And if people don't have the same definition for the same words, a lot of miscommunication can happen. So part of the experience of running for office is trying to ensure that when I am talking to people, ensuring that we do have the same definition for keywords, because miscommunication is, human communication is a very fickle thing. And so I've become more aware of the nuances of word choice and whatnot. And so I do sometimes try to establish that understanding. That way I do have more confidence that we are discussing the same thing and not talking about two different things, thinking we're talking about the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yes. I find, I've been working in town with a group called Common Ground, and that's what we try to do. We try to hear all lenses and kind of hash out the perceptions that people come with, and especially the vocabulary. Brene Brown says all the time, clear is kind, and it's very hard to be clear with people when people are bringing their own stories with them and their own thing. I was just going to say, I agree with your sister. I think anybody that doesn't have to check their checking account once in 2 weeks and can go out and pay their bills and not worry, that's rich to me, right? So and so I know that we talk about affordability so much, and it's, there's so much data out there, but like looking at jobs, like if a job isn't being paid more, but your food bill is going up and your gas bill is going up. I remember back in 2012, I was having a discussion with somebody from North Carolina that was a little bit better well off than I was. And I'll never forget, she said to me, she goes, "Oh, well, the healthcare plan was passed, so nobody's going to be without insurance anymore." And I was like, no, that's not what that means. Thankfully, they can't tell you you can't have insurance because you have a previous illness now, but people still can't afford insurance, because if I have to pay my rent or I have to pay my insurance bill, I'm going to pay my rent because I need somewhere to go. I need a home. So I think anybody that has to make those type of choices is in a hard place. And I think I love that you want to support working people, because that's where it's at. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, what makes the world go round? And you have to make everybody comfortable. And how do you do that? You know what I mean?
You have to thread a very delicate needle.
Yeah.
Because, at the end of the day, I know no one wants to pay more money for anything, but I don't believe that billionaires earn everything that they have. They exploit labor, they exploit resources. And the fact that, an Amazon worker makes, $1 for every $3,000 or something that Jeff Bezos makes, that is a huge issue. Back in the 1950s, the average CEO only made 40 to 50 times their lowest paid employee. Today, that can be anywhere from 350 to, I think, Starbucks CEO makes 7,000 times their lowest paid employee. And so, if we have a minimum wage, why not have a maximum wage? Because at the end of the day, you are not going to be able to, you can't have a Starbucks unless you have the baristas who are working there and doing the hard grunt work. So I don't know who the current CEO of Starbucks is, but so sometimes it's also easy to helpful to break these numbers down to smaller numbers. If I earned $100,000 a year, it would take 10,000 years to earn $1 billion. There's nothing in this world that you can do that can convince me that you are worth 10,000 years of someone working a $100,000 job. And so when you talk about the person making $250,000, yes, they are very well off. They are not struggling. But if they become incapacitated and they lose their health insurance, they could have a $600,000 medical bill then suddenly that $250,000 means nothing. And so I've actually worked with the homeless, and so I really appreciate the efforts that you're putting into it. It really means a lot to me because I've spoken with some homeless people, and they have jobs. They're coming back to a shelter from a job that doesn't pay them enough. And so to me, it's just, we should never be in a position where people can't afford housing and healthcare. And so again, for me, someone who is wealthy and ultra rich is a person that if they lose their ability to work, they have enough in investments that their investment income can keep them, can give them a sense of sustainability. And so, but again, depending on who you're talking to, getting that understanding of the person, because again, if I say like, oh, it takes $1 million to be rich, you might be like, well, this guy's crazy because $250,000 is rich. So really defining those terms.
I was going to say another lens on that is in Jackie Onassis Kennedy's biography, they talk about how she was always afraid of being broke. But the truth is that she comes from a family that, that broke is a little bit different than our broke. That broke is I can't go for the summer to the Long Island shore, not, but so I want to ask about home affordability because that's another hot topic, especially here in North Branford and the suburbs, now that the new housing bill is passed. Where do you find affordable housing and how do you think that communities like this would deal with it or should deal with it? Like, do you think that we should change our zoning? Like, because a lot of us here in North Branford want to keep our open space. So that's a struggle and a big conversation that we have. So where do you land on that?
So there are actually more empty homes and apartment units than there are homeless people. And one of the biggest issues is that private equity will come in to neighborhoods, they'll snatch up single-family homes, they'll snatch up apartment complexes, and they'll either keep them off the market or they'll create these shell companies that they then sell those houses to artificially raise the price of that house, which then artificially raises the price of houses around that. And then that means there's less availability of housing on the market. That drives up rental prices because now landlords feel more confident in being able to charge more because less people can afford homes. And so private equity coming in and snatching up all of these properties is a big reason why housing is going up. And so I'm a proponent of using mechanisms such as eminent domain to purchase these properties back from private equity and putting them back into the market so that we don't necessarily have to rely on new construction. Because if there's more homes than homeless people, then it's not a matter of not having the availability, it's not having the political will or the priorities to ensure that those homes are being used to house people, not just for a private equity firm to have in their investment portfolio so that some hedge fund manager in New York City can live in a penthouse with a golden toilet.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I could see that. I'm a big proponent of redevelopment. Redeveloping commercial properties and making them housing. But yeah, private equity is a big discussion, and I believe the president has also brought up private equity when it comes to single-family homes. So would you support legislation, even if it was brought forward from the president, sitting president now, that supported ending private equity in single-family homes?
So, I think that is actually one of the biggest issues right now with the current establishment Democrat and establishment Republican Party is that when there are genuine avenues of bipartisanship, there's the whole idea that like, oh, I can't work with this person because I don't want to give them a political win. And so to me, like, I probably don't agree with Trump on 99% of things. If there's 1% of something that I do agree with him on, I'll work with him. I still want to hold him accountable for his participation in the Epstein files and all the horrific things that he might have done in those, his abuses with the ICE agency. But in the meantime, since he is the president, if there are avenues of working with him to pass legislation that benefits our people, I'm all for it. I think, what is the expression? You can chew gum and walk at the same time. We can pursue holding the president accountable for any violation of the Constitution while working with him on policy to advance the needs of our people. They're not mutually exclusive.
If the 3rd district was to, let me ask this first. Is there anything that you need from the Democrats or the DTC here in town that you would like them to know? You need signatures, right?
So there are 2 ways of making it onto the primary ballot. In Connecticut, the primary is held on August 11th, but to get onto the ballot, there are 2 avenues. On May 11th at 6 p.m. in West Haven, there's a convention of delegates. 390 delegates meet at the West Haven High School to decide who will get access to the ballot. If we receive 15% of those delegates, or around 60 delegates, then we have a spot on the ballot. If we can't get the delegates to support this campaign, then we have to go to a ballot access petition drive, which opens tomorrow. And so we would require, we won't know the exact number until the Secretary of State's office releases that tomorrow, but we anticipate needing around 3,500 signatures with a target of 5,500 signatures, just in case any name doesn't match, maybe someone's not registered as a Democrat, because all signatures have to be from Democrats registered in one of the 25 towns that comprise this district, and that is from Stratford over to Guilford, up to Durham, Middlefield, over to Southern Waterbury.
Okay, great. And they have to be written signatures?
Yep.
Okay.
They have to be handwritten signatures. So for the first couple of weeks, we're probably going to be at like Stop and Shops and train stations. We'll probably try to do some canvassing. And in the meantime, we're trying to raise money for a campaign office. That way, if people want to have like a specific location that they know they can go to, we can tell them, hey, come to our campaign office here at this time, and you can sign a petition.
So I remember you said something about corporate donations before. So you won't take corporate donations, but I know that people who run in the state of Connecticut can get grants for their...
So that's only for state level offices.
Only for state,
because this is a federal office.
Okay.
There's no kind of matching grant or anything. So we have to raise every dollar on our own. The incumbent Rosa DeLauro, in the 2024 cycle, she took in $1.7 million of funding. Only 5% of that came from small dollar donations, under $200. Around 50% of it came from corporations, ranging from HP, Verizon, AT&T, Lockheed Martin, Deloitte, APAC. And so I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And in episode 2, Obi-Wan Kenobi says to Anakin that I have often observed that politicians tend to please those that fund their campaigns. And so if you have millions of dollars coming in from corporations, can the voter have confidence that your decisions are being made in their best interest, or are you appeasing the people that fund your campaigns? And that is why we are only accepting grassroots donations.
Okay. And do you have that infrastructure set up, like socials and all of that, Venmo?
So usually to donate, you can go to the website www.riceforct.com. There's a donation page. But one of the hardest things about campaigning is asking people for money, especially when so many people are struggling with affordability.
Yes.
It sucks to go up to them and say, hey, I know you can't afford housing, you can't afford groceries, you can't afford education. Can you afford to throw me $5, please? But the way that I like to frame it, even just for my own comfortability, is to say that it's an investment. I want to fight for the working class. I want to fight to improve people's standard of living. And so I can't do that if I can't make it into the Congress. So it's not necessarily donating $5, it's investing $5 so that I can help everyone build a better future together.
I love it.
Thank you.
Ainsley, do you have any questions or anything more that you want to add that you remembered while you were sitting there?
Nothing I can think of right now.
No.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. How can a member of Congress help your cause?
A member of Congress can help my cause by promoting some of the event, like one of my events that I'm having, and also just making small donations can help reach the goal of getting donations to the food pantries and helping people out that are experiencing food insecurity.
Okay.
And your event is on May 23rd,
Yes.
right? And it starts at 3 o'clock?
I believe it's 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock at St. Andrews in Northford.
Yes.
And for North Branford residents, that is where the food pantry used to be, St. Andrews. And so they're having the paint event there. And we'll bring all of that food to the new location, which is the old police department. Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
Thanks for letting me come. That
Of
would be great.
course.
So, does anybody have any last things to say before we wrap up?
Do you have a social media image, or do you have something that can be shared easily on social media?
I do. On my Instagram account for Miss New Haven County's teen, I have my flyer for the Paint to Plate event. I have the RSVP link, and then you can also text my number to RSVP if you're coming, or use that flyer to share around.
Okay.
Do you happen to know what the handle is on the Instagram? What is it at?
It is at Miss New Haven County's Teen 2026.
I'm just writing this down.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much to both of you for coming. Good luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
I hope you get on the ballot, get the delegates, get all of your signatures that you need. I'll be watching.
Thank you.
And if you ever want to come back during the campaign, please do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I tend to come back when I am the nominee for the Democrats in November.
Awesome.
I'll be back.
Yeah, I think. I'm not so. I like change. I think change is scary, but change is good. Yeah. So
I agree.
I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Ainsley, thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
Good luck
Thank you.
in June at your I want to say tournament, but it's pageant. Your pageant. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Please help your neighbors, help the food pantry. I also wanted to mention I put out a little intro video yesterday, and I was saying, we should start a small segment of what you found on the free page and how you're using it. I showed that I'm using it in my garden. I got some blocks from a neighbor. So thank you so much, and we will see you at the end of May. Have a great May and a happy Mother's Day.
Hi, my name is Megan, and I'm the owner of Get Organized with Megan Rose. I specialize in helping people create organized, stress-free homes through my services, which include decluttering and organizing, donation pickups, and daily chores such as laundry, dishes, and tidying up. I understand that inviting someone into your home can feel overwhelming, and many people feel hesitant or embarrassed. But I want you to know my services are 100% judgment-free. I'm here to help, not judge. In addition to my organizing work, I'm also the administrator for our town's free page, where I donate many of my clients' unwanted items to help others in the community. Giving back has been an important part of my business since the very beginning. I've lived in North Branford for 11 years with my boys, and I truly love being part of this community. Right now, I'm running a giveaway for 1 free hour of my decluttering service. Everyone who enters from town will receive $15 off their next session. Be sure to check out my Facebook page, Get Organized with Megan Rose, to learn more about my services. I hope to hear from you soon.